What's up, everybody? It's Ethanol R6 here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use the Motion Pro axis stand. This is for balancing your wheels at home. This video will also apply to any other brand static balancer out there. The axis we've got here also is for truing up spoked wheels, which does not apply to us or many modern bikes. So here you can see the different fits. Most important part there is that we're working with the inside diameter from 18 millimeters to 32 millimeters for the hub diameter. So again, that works with basically every modern street bike tire. Today we'll be working with the 08 R6 in the back there. So the overall setup of this is pretty easy. Pops right out of the stand. It's just got these little pins that kind of snap everything together. These front cones here are tapered, so they fit into the bearing there. So the front wheel of this bike actually typically uses these spacers here, and they just kind of press fit in. These are off of the R6. This is not with the Motion Pro stand. But I found that these had a little bit of lateral movement this way, and it was not letting the wheel sit perfectly flush. So instead I'm going directly to the inner race of this wheel bearing here. Since these bearings are an interference fit, to me, the going directly to these inner races was a lot more secure. And the way I actually mounted this here, it's just a pinch bolt on the one side, and the other side is fixed to this little kind of hub thing here. So all I did was I actually laid this whole setup on its back, set the wheel and tire onto it, tightened it down, and once you stand it up, it's free spinning, everything's quiet. Don't hear any grinding or anything. There's no like heavy spots or crunchy spots in the bearings of the hub itself. I've heard kind of mixed reviews online about that, but I can't hear anything obviously because it's super quiet, super smooth. So to start off, what we'll do is we'll just give this a small little spin. We'll let it go until it totally settles out, which it's actually been taking upwards of a minute because it's spinning so well. I don't know if that's something that'll break in as it gets older, but I'm happy with it taking longer because then I know it's not influencing the balance of my wheels. While this thing's settling down, I'll just say this did not come with any instructions, but it's just by looking at the pictures, it's pretty self-explanatory. I just thought this video would give a nice visual example for people that are looking to buy this particular stand, or if they're just kind of interested in how to do wheels and tires yourself at home. I did decide to mount the rotors just because that's something that's fixed to these wheels and it's part of the rotating mass. The only thing I'm really missing out on are those little kind of axle spacers I was talking about and the axle itself, which the axle doesn't spin. So as far as rotating mass goes, this is about 99% of it here. I did purchase Motion Pro weights just because they have nice clean black weights, and these are, I believe, 1/8 ounce. Yep, so these are the smaller ones, so I can be a little more fine-tuned with what I'm actually doing here. We can see the wheel just stopped. It's actually kind of rebounding the other way, so we'll just let that settle out. Okay, I'm not going to exaggerate. That took probably 2 minutes to finish its back and forth oscillations. Now that it has finished, the heaviest spot we now know is on the bottom. The lightest spot is up on top. So typically you're going to want to mount your weights there. What I'm going to do is I peeled off a couple little pieces of painter's tape here, and I'm going to take a tiny little dot, line myself up with center, and I'm going to put it on just like that. Now that's not enough to affect the overall weight of these wheels, but I'm going to give them just another little nudge again, and we're going to let it settle out. And if that, it's 4th of July, you can still hear that going on. If that piece of tape settles, I would say anywhere within a 20-degree window, we know we're pretty accurate. Now, if you notice, it makes pretty good sense that that was the heaviest side, considering that's where the valve stem is. It's pretty typical. As you can see, the light spot finished very close to top dead center there, so we can pretty much assume that that's going to be the lightest spot. Did open up these weights here. Like I said, these are the 1/8 ounce black weights, so they'll blend in pretty good. Just adhesive on the back. Now, for me personally, I want to use as little weights as possible. So I am actually going to just start with an 1/8 ounce here because it was taking so long to oscillate. Even though it's still settled in the same spot, it makes me think that it doesn't need a ton. So we're just going to start with 1 or 2 and then respin it, so we can always add more. All right, and as you can see, we've got those 2 weights. So that's 1/4 ounce. We're going to do the same thing as before. Just give it a slight spin, and we're going to let it settle out. Now, obviously, you want to get the wheel as clean as possible so that those weights stick and you don't throw weights. These are freshly powder coated wheels, so this is dechlorinated brake cleaner. Probably still shouldn't use it, but I just kind of put a tiny little dribble on this rag and wiped it down, and it just made sure the surface was totally clean. All right, don't mind the fireworks in the back, but you can see the wheel has settled, and we've got our 2 black weights up at the top, so that means the bottom is still heavy. So what I'm going to do is put probably 2 more, maybe 1 on each side, and we'll go from there. All right, we got our 2 additional weights on there, and what we're actually looking for here is not for it to necessarily settle in one spot, but to settle in different spots, because then we know it's just kind of settling randomly and there's not necessarily a heavy or a light side. So the fact that we keep having the valve stem at the bottom where we added weights at the top means it's consistent every time. So the first time we get it to where valve stems maybe over here, pretty good, then we'll spin it 1 more time. If the valve stems maybe over here, then we're done. But if it keeps going over there, then maybe we'll kind of reassess. I don't want to have to add weights here and here and here. So ideally, I'm going to get it settled randomly just with where the weights are at right now. And to me, this is, I know a lot of people say, it's close enough whenever it is, within a ballpark range. But for an extra 5 or 10 minutes of work, and you're talking about the balance of your wheels, I think it's crazy to not spend the extra couple minutes here just to make sure everything's dialed in. I'm sitting here doing nothing anyway, so I might as well make sure it's right before we put it on, and it just saves you having to take the wheels and tires off later, having to rebalance. So what you'll notice here is weights are on the bottom left, valve stems on the top right, so it's almost 180 from what we had, so it kind of seems like we might have had too much weight. But what I'm going to do is give it 1 more little spin, and we'll just remember it's settled top right valve stem, and we'll see where this one ends up. All right, that next one just ended. We are valve stem on the bottom, weights are on top. Remember a second ago, we were just right here, top right. So, we're done. That was 2 totally different, basically, sides of the wheel. So, I know I was just saying nitpicking earlier, but that is a good sign to me. Sometimes you'll see people online where it's like, oh, we got the valve stem here, and then it's settled here, and then it's settled here. It's like, okay, well, it's all kind of lower left. So maybe the heavy spot's kind of over here. That was 2 totally different ends of the wheel. So that's perfect. Now, just as a sanity check, we've got 4 weights on here. So that's a half ounce there, 4 1/8 ounce weights. And over here, I've got my old wheels. It's got 2 weights, but they're also somewhat near the valve stem. So maybe when this tire was put on, it was clocked just the right way where it was balanced a little better, that it needs less weight. I do know for a fact my rear wheel had a huge dent in it. When you spin it, it would very well could be something like that up front, but just more of a sanity check thing. Like, okay, this had 2, that had 4, pretty close. But if it was something like this had 2 and that has 9 to get it balanced, and I'm having to put them in multiple different spots, that would be a problem. Actually, I just noticed these are 1/4 ounce weights. So this has a half ounce on it, and this has a half ounce on it. So they're actually the same, just different locations, which is, for one, where the tires are at. This one's got aftermarket valve. Not that it makes huge difference, but just little stuff like that can make it a little bit of a difference. Now, to take everything apart, all we do is crack this 5mm Allen loose, which I just had snugged up. Nothing too crazy, but that should break free. This will slide forward, and you can see the wheel kind of just dropped off of its high point on the hub. This slides right out, and this wheel slides right off. So we've got a freshly balanced wheel. I'm going to kind of massage those weights a little bit just to make sure they're fully stuck down. Earlier I mentioned having all your rotating mass mounted on there, so I've got my rotors. Same goes for the rear. I will probably put the cush drive and the sprocket and everything, because that's got this side wheel bearing in it. But hub, sprocket, rear rotor, all the rubber dampeners. So just have everything in there because it's how you're going to be riding it. So that's how makes the most sense to me. This is what the stand looks like without the wheel on it. Here we've got our 5mm pinch bolt. These are the two things that hold your hub on. You can see where I just had the wheel there. It's just scratched, nothing damaged or anything. Spin smooth. Back here we've got our pins. So you can pull these pins. This will slide right out. This whole thing folds up into a nice thin position here. I did purchase their tire spoons here, their wheel protectors, little valve stem tool. So I actually mounted and balanced these wheels and tires myself, which I'll put a little picture up here just so you can see what I'm talking about. Bought the stand. So all in all, I'm in this probably $150 to $200. So essentially just paid itself off in the first go around. And we all know how fast you go through street bike tires. So typically I go through, I don't know, 2 per season, I would say. And just right off that number there, I'm already going to be positive by the end of the year. And I'm very close to it right now. So definitely a worthwhile investment for me. Lastly, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions on what I did today, drop a comment. I'll answer it as best as I can. Obviously, this is my first time doing this, so I'm no professional, but I do have hands-on experience, which makes a big difference. But if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any future ideas on what you want to see me do or show you guys how to do, let me know, and I will be happy to help you guys out.